The Secret of the Assassina, Myth vs. Fact. If you talk to anyone who has never visited the Philippines, it won't take long before they drop one of the most controversial, lingering stereotypes about the country. Is it true that people there eat dogs? For decades, this single question has sparked intense internet debates, left tourists feeling nervous, and created a cloud of mystery around local culinary habits. But what is the actual truth on the ground? Is it an outright myth manufactured by outsiders, or is it a hidden reality tucked away in the shadows of the islands? I'm an expat living out in the provinces, and you're watching The Walking Expat, Philippine Mysteries. Living day to day out in the provinces gives you a very clear, unfiltered window into the real heart of Philippine culture. You see how local families live, what they cook at their gatherings, and how they treat the animals around them. To understand the relationship between the local population and dogs, you have to peel back decades of history, regional traditions, and major generational shifts. The short answer to the question is both a historical yes and a modern, legal no. What used to be a traditional practice in specific regions has transformed into a highly illegal, heavily condemned black market trade. Tonight, we are going to dive deep into the origins of this stereotype, look closely at the infamous dish known as assassina, and discover how the modern Philippines is fiercely fighting to protect its canine companions. The tribal and cultural origins. To truly understand where this practice began, we have to look far back into the pre-colonial history of the islands, long before modern laws and supermarket chains existed. For certain indigenous tribes in the mountainous regions of northern Luzon, particularly within the Cordillera mountain range, dogs were not historically viewed strictly as domestic house pets. Instead, they held a very distinct place in tribal rituals, spiritual sacrifices, and community celebrations. In these high-altitude ethnic communities, consuming dog meat was tied directly to specific spiritual events, such as celebrating a successful harvest, honoring ancestral spirits, or marking a warrior's transition. It was never a standard, everyday meal that you would find cooking in an ordinary household kitchen. It was an infrequent, deeply ritualistic practice born from a time when communities relied entirely on what the rugged mountain environment provided for survival and spiritual alignment. As the decades rolled into the 20th century, this regional practice began to morph, sliding out of its traditional tribal context and creeping into the underground urban subculture. This is where the infamous term assassina was born. The word itself is a clever, somewhat dark linguistic mashup of the Spanish word azo, meaning dog, and cena, meaning dinner. During the tough economic times of the mid to late 1900s, assassina became an underground phenomenon, particularly among older men in working-class neighborhoods or remote rural areas. It was prepared as a heavily spiced, slow-simmered stew, cooked down with vinegar, soy sauce, garlic, and hot chili peppers, a flavor profile very similar to a traditional goat or beef. Caldereta. It was rarely eaten as a standard family dinner. Instead, it was served almost exclusively as pulutan, the local term for savory, heavy finger foods consumed by groups of men during late night, drinking sessions over local gin or tuba beer. The Turning Tide and the Animal Welfare Act. As the Philippines rapidly modernized, urbanized, and connected with the global community, internal attitudes toward domestic animals underwent a massive, radical transformation. The vast majority of Filipinos began to welcome dogs into their homes, not as gods or livestock, but as beloved, coddled members of the family unit. The sight of a pampered askal, the local term for a native street dog, now affectionately rebranded as Aspin, became the new national norm. The cultural disgust toward the consumption of dog meat grew so powerful that it forced the national government to take decisive legislative action. In 1998, the landmark Republic Act No. 8485, known across the country as the Animal Welfare Act, was officially passed into law. This monumental piece of legislation strictly prohibited the killing of dogs for commercial food purposes across the entire nation, effectively turning a dying cultural practice into a severe criminal offense punishable by heavy fines and mandatory prison time. The shadow trade of the black market. Despite the implementation of strict national laws and a massive wave of public condemnation, a dark, highly lucrative underground black market managed to survive in the deep shadows. For years, criminal syndicates operated illicit supply lines, targeting stray animals wandering the streets or actively stealing pet dogs straight out of residential yards in the lowlands. These stolen animals were crammed into tiny, suffocating wire cages, their muzzles bound tightly with plastic or wire, and smuggled in the backs of unmarked delivery vans during the dead of night. Their destination was almost always the underground eateries, hidden deep inside specific northern provinces where a small, stubborn demographic of older consumers was still willing to pay premium prices for the forbidden meat. This wasn't a matter of cultural tradition anymore. It had transformed into a ruthless, profit-driven criminal enterprise, operating completely outside the boundaries of civilized society. The war on the dog meat trade. Today, the war against this underground black market is being fought with intense, uncompromising ferocity. Local law enforcement agencies, working hand in hand with dedicated animal rights, organizations like the Animal Kingdom Foundation, regularly execute high-stakes, midnight raid operations on illegal slaughterhouses and transit vans. Intercepted vehicles are stopped at provincial checkpoints, where hidden compartments are ripped open to rescue dozens of dehydrated, terrified dogs just hours away from destruction. The perpetrators are slapped with severe criminal charges under the Animal Welfare Act. Furthermore, major cities across the country have implemented their own zero-tolerance local ordinances. Public awareness campaigns have flooded social media, teaching communities that dogs are loyal companions and empowering local citizens to immediately report any suspicious backyard activities to the police. The modern reality on the ground. So, if you are a foreigner planning to travel or move to the Philippines today, what is the actual reality you will encounter on the ground? The absolute truth is that you can walk through thousands of public wet markets, explore crowded street food lanes, and dine at local carinderias for years, without ever seeing a single trace of dog meat. It is completely absent from mainstream Philippine cuisine. If you visit an ordinary Filipino home, you won't find a shadow menu. You will find an Aspen sleeping soundly on the porch, wearing a collar and being fed table scraps by doting owners. The stereotype that Filipinos regularly consume dogs is a severely outdated relic of the past, kept alive by old movies and sensationalized internet stories. Today, the practice is viewed by 99% of the local population with the exact same horror, disgust, and anger that you would find in any Western country. The journey of the Philippines from a land with isolated, ancient tribal dog-eating traditions to a modern nation fiercely protective of animal rights is a testament to the country's deep capacity for compassion and progress. The mystery is officially solved. Dog-eating in the modern Philippines is not a cultural fact. It is an illegal, dying criminal anomaly. I still take my daily walks along the quiet provincial roads, and every single day I am greeted by the friendly barks of the neighborhood. Aspens guarding the front gates of the native houses. These loyal animals are woven into the very fabric of provincial life, loved by the children and respected by the community. They are no longer viewed as a potential meal. They are recognized as the faithful, watchful guardians of the islands we call home.